Yeah, because
Alrighty.
it's time. 10 seconds. Call the meeting to order. I want to acknowledge that we are on the unceded ancestral territory of the Upper Smokeman Indian Band. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Thank you, Councillor McLean. Seconder? Councillor Willis. Any additions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes from the April 19th, 2022 regular meeting of council.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Gould. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of the April 25th, 2022 special meeting of council minutes.
Make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Willis. Second, Councillor McLean. Errors or omissions? Councillor Gould.
Just the spelling of Councillor Willis's name, section 10, or item 10, says Councillor Wills.
Okay. You got that? Okay, thank you. Okay, any others? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Number 4, petitions and delegations. We have KPMG here to give us the financial statements for 2021. Brent, all yours.
Thanks very much. Thanks for allowing me to join your meeting tonight. I will walk you through the consolidated financial statements for the town of Princeton for the year ended December 31st, 2021. The statements are basically complete pending final approval from council. So just give me a thumbs up. You can see my screen and hear me okay?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, good. Okay, so going into the financial statements, the first thing that I want to highlight is the independent auditor's report. And right at the start of the independent auditor's report is our opinion on the financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2021, which is a unqualified opinion, meaning the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position and the results of operations for the year then ended in accordance with public sector accounting standards. So we'll go past the auditor's report. The rest of the report goes through management's responsibilities and our basis for opinion, and then we get into the actual financial numbers. So on the consolidated statement of financial position, I'll hit some of the highlights. Obviously a very significant event in November with the floods that happened in the town, and there's a number of factors as a result, or a number of results in your financial statements as a result of the flood that happened in November. So you can see that first of all, in cash and cash equivalents balance of about 4.8 million is consistent with where you were at the end of 2020. Of that 4.8 million, about 3.1 million is invested in money market funds with MFA. If you look at under the next line is accounts receivable, which has gone up significantly over last year, and the bulk of that change is really the receivable from the province for funding or grants for the flood damage, as well as some insurance proceeds as well that was outstanding at the end of December. So that's the bulk of the change in accounts receivable. Land held for resale during the year, you sold 3 lots, and so that decreased the balance or the cost of the land that's held for resale by just over $100,000. And then you do see a fairly sizable increase in the long-term investment balance, and that is the investment, your share of the Vermilion Forks Community Forest Corporation, which had a successful financial year, and that is why your long-term investment has gone up by your share of the earnings during 2021. And then loans receivable, the loans that were receivable at the end of 2020 were repaid in 2021. So your total financial assets has gone up by just over 2.1 million to just over 10 million. On the liability side, again, some impact with the floods situation from the fall, with accounts payable and accrued liabilities increasing from where they were a year ago, with some outstanding trade payables related to the flood costs. Deferred revenue is mainly has gone up over last year, and that mainly consists of unspent flood grants as well as unspent capital grants at the end of 2021. The solid waste landfill closure and post-closure liability. So just to refresh your memory of what that is, that's an estimate of future costs in today's dollars to provide the required cost of closure and post-closure care of your landfill. And there was a new report issued by the engineers during the year, which gave a re-estimate of some of those future costs. And in today's dollars, that is now just over $1 million, so almost a $200,000 increase over last year. Obviously, there's lots of estimation when you talk about what those future costs are going to be in terms of inflation costs and other factors that may change. So, but at the end of 2021, that's the estimated liability. So that comes down to, after deducting your total financial liabilities, you have net financial assets of just over $7 million. So that's your financial assets minus financial liabilities. Non-financial assets are made up of 3 different items. Inventory of supplies, which has gone down at the end of the year. So that would be items like public works type items that might be in inventory at the end of the year, and some of that was damaged during the flood, so that's why the inventory value has diminished at the end of the year. Prepaid expenses, no real change there. And then tangible capital assets, which is your infrastructure and equipment, buildings, roads, etc. for the municipality, is a balance net book value of just over 21.1 at the end of the year. And during the year, you spent approximately $890,000 on new capital additions during the year. And you also had some loss on disposal, as some of your tangible capital assets were damaged during the flood, and you'll see that reflected in the statement of operations. So coming down, adding your non-financial assets to your net financial assets, your accumulated surplus at the end of the year, it's increased by just over $500,000 to almost 28.3 million, and about 6.6 million of that is in reserves. In terms of the statement of operations and accumulated surplus on the next page, I'll maybe just stop at the revenue line there for a moment, highlight that. So budgeted revenue was just shy of 9.3 million. Your actual was almost 9.7 million, and again, a lot of that is increase in the grants, both provincial and federal, over last year, and also the land sales during the year, and also items such as sundry and sale of services and rentals. So I'll just sort of dig into those numbers a little bit more. Taxation revenue as well was up about 250,000 over last year as budgeted. So in terms of grants, provincial and federal, that would include the funding for the emergency services for the floods. It also there was an extra gas tax payment in 2021 from the federal government. Offsetting that was last year, there was the almost $1 million in the COVID-19 restart grant from the province. But the bulk of the change in terms of total revenue is certainly in the grants, provincial and federal line. Also, in terms of sale of services and rentals, that's gone up over last year. That's, includes items such as a campground. It also, in the current year, would have been rental of facilities to IHA to run vaccination clinics for a number of months during 2021. Other areas there where you see some increased sundry, there was an increase in the amount of fuel sales at the airport. And then land sales, as I said, with the 3 lots that were sold in 2021 as up over last year. If you look at on the expense side, the bulk of the change is in a couple different areas. One, protective services is where the bulk of the flood-related expenses are, almost over $1.6 million in 2021. That's the bulk of the change in that line item. Also, in terms of transportation services, you see just over a $500,000 increase in transportation-related costs, road repair costs, fuel cost, obviously having an impact in terms of the change in fuel prices during the year. Some additional staffing as well in transportation as well. So total expenses have gone up from just over 7.4 million to just around right at the 9.9 million. So that results before other items in a deficit of $209,000 as compared with a surplus of $360,000 the previous year. We're adding in the loss on disposal of tangible capital assets. As I said, some items that were damaged and written off during the year. You've got some proceeds on insurance claims of $156,000 into revenue, and then other income is $792,000 is your share of the Vermilion Forks profits for 2021, which is up considerably over last year. So you actually come in with an annual surplus that's relatively comparable with 2020 at $514,000 as compared with about $487,000 the year before. Accumulated surplus at the end of the year has gone up then accordingly by that $514,000. In terms of the rest of the statements, there wasn't any changes in significant accounting policies during the year. There is some note disclosure in subsequent events in terms of some additional funding expected for the town in terms of from the province as part of their announcement they had in the last month or so with regards to some additional funding that's going to be part of that Princeton's going to receive as a result of some of the flooding that happened. And that's my report. I'll maybe pause there and see if there's any questions from council.
Does anybody have any questions?
First we get to see it though.
Yeah, me too. Anybody else? Councilor McLean, you look like you have a question.
I missed the one thing, there was an increase in revenue from, it was near the end, Brent, of what you were talking about in terms of,
Okay.
Are you talking about this one?
it was one or two from the end of what you were talking about. You said increased revenue from,
Oh, the Forest Corp.
yeah. So.
Yes, this other income line, yes, is
So is it, I can't read that from here. Is that showing what it was last year and what it was this year?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was 126 last year, 190, or 792
Yeah,
this year.
so,
it was
maybe
792,000 in the current year.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe I'll field that one. So, this year we had increased activity in the Vermilion Forks Corporation. The manager of the Forest Corporation Warehouser decided that due to some change in the Forest Management Act, it was prudent for us to try and front load as much as possible the activities in that corporation the first year as opposed to later on. There's some potential risk to value of stumpage coming up. So that $792,000 is probably not something that we should rely on in future years. It'll be greatly diminished over the next 4.
That's what I was trying to remember, because we were uploading for now, but we can expect to be down.
Yes, so we're trying to cut all of our 5-year plan right now, because the scuttlebutt is we're gonna go to a full market stumpage, which will kill us. So we're
Any other questions?
jumping in on that. So, do you guys have any other questions?
No, that's fine.
No other questions, Brent?
Okay, well, thanks so much for allowing me to join your meeting tonight. I thank you for accommodating me on it virtually tonight, and James, thank you for all your assistance in your staff and getting through the audit. And I will sign off then. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we will go to, late. We'll go to staff report 6.1, Town of Princeton Financial Statements. James. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but
Yeah.
I'll still ask.
Okay, so, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, so as presented from Brent Ashby at KPMG, and I thank Brent for his diligent work and all his staff this year as well. It was not an easy, straightforward process this year. There was a lot of things that we had for financial statements that were outside the financial plan. A lot of things that the province hasn't really come through yet with funding. So trying to piece everything together while still maintaining the two budgets that we wrote and making sure that we had the financial records at a quality that we could get an unqualified opinion on was in this time frame was a very large challenge. So the financial statements have to be submitted to the province no later than May 15th. So because May 14th is a holiday, that means they all have to be approved by May 13th. Finance staff still have to take the financial statements and put them into a format that the province will understand through the local government reporting entity, or LGDE, local government. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the acronym, but it's a system that the province uses to input financial data. So we ask council to approve the financial statements as written. I know it's quite short notice. Like I said, we were working right up until this afternoon, getting a couple of the numbers sorted out with the backup they needed for their standards, and so that way we can meet our statutory requirement by May 13th.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor McLean, second. Councillor Elliott, questions? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor McLean.
Is it you that hires our accountant?
Yes, so last year we had a motion to adopt KPMG again for 5 years. We did a competitive bid process, and KPMG came in with the strongest bid.
Well, since you hired them, then I would suggest that they have a thing at the end of the presentation that what a fine job our Minister of Finance has done with the bookkeeping.
I think he did, if I recall correctly.
You did say that, yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. 6.2, grant funding approval. Gary.
Mr. Shaw. Thank you. This is from ETSI-BC, which used to be SIDIT, the Southern Interior Development Trust Fund or something. I'm not sure what, they switched their name. But anyway, it's for economic development. They provided funding. This is flood recovery for help with a flood recovery advisor, which will allow me to bring someone in for a 6-month period to assist with some projects that I want to do with our businesses, flood recovery related, as well as economic development related. It's kind of a hybrid thing, so it'll be good to get some help on a few projects. The amount here is 53,550 in your report. It says 56.5. It's because they changed it the day the report went out. That's why this is only edited here. So it's a difference of $2,950, which isn't going to affect the position at all.
The number on the motion is correct.
Correct, yeah.
They made a small mistake. They told me they sent it out originally at 56.5, and then they realized that it was actually 53.5. So they apologized to me when I saw them at Silga, and I said, "Don't worry, just call Gary and let him know."
Yeah, it won't affect anything
we'll fix
that
it, so.
we're going. It's all good.
Any questions? Motion? Councillor McLean is making a motion. Seconder? Councillor Gould, be Any questions on the motion? All in favor? Carried, thank you. 6.3, Airport Housing Project, CAO.
Yes, just as a little background here, council posted the request for expression of interest on February 14th. The submission deadline was April 11th. At that deadline, we received 5 submissions, which was very, very optimistic for us. That was great. Every one of them looked very good and capable. However, there was one proponent that seemed to be a little bit more experienced and was very much aligned with council's vision, that being Aaliyah. As mentioned, they have a very experienced management team. They are well financed, and their presentation actually again aligns with council's vision, and it meets our housing needs on multiple levels. So now we're preparing to, if council adopts this, that we're prepared to go to the next level.
Any questions? Councillor Gould.
I have a few. So in regards to the recommendation from staff to go with Aaliyah, I read through their project. They make a recommendation of 20 houses with hangars. Would our airport support that?
You know, that's where we take it to the next level. We'll put it down on paper and just sort of see how that lays out.
Okay.
We're not at the design stage yet.
So right now, it's just concept level
Yes,
still.
yeah.
And then as for what the partnership or how the agreement will work, that's to be negotiated?
That's right. That's the next step.
As well as, like, we were looking for a mix of housing and
Yes.
stuff. That's also
Yeah.
to be
Yeah, we're,
discussed
Yes,
by staff and then come back to council?
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll formulate a draft and then we'll bring it back to council for council review.
Okay. And then in their report, which I was a little confused as to whether that was, like, they mentioned another development.
Right.
That, if that was an announced thing or not. So, and was that one of the weighing factors too, is that there's a relationship? There,
No,
or
not
at all?
It didn't factor into our assessment.
Thank you.
At the time of the submission, I think it was just something that they were working on, and I believe, it's my understanding, that they've completed that
Okay.
deal. Yeah.
I believe at the time, right now, there's 3 out of the 5 that are investing into the community right now. So.
Right, because the Rich Lane Homes showed a few examples of where they also had done stuff in the community.
Yes,
That's why I just
yeah.
wanted to confirm that that wasn't one of the weighting factors
Yeah.
in our decision.
And Leon Homes as well as working in the community, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we have a motion by, did you have a question first? No,
I
okay.
seconded.
Councillor Willis, seconded Councillor McLean. Any other questions or comments? I'll call the question, all in favor, and that is carried. Thank you. 6.4, repairs to municipal campground sites. Gary, back to you.
Yeah, so this is just the next stage of the repairs as we're moving forward. The contractor came, as we continue to find more things wrong and the extent of the damage. There was a request for an additional $37,000. Again, this will be going through either our insurance or disaster fund. It's not a finite number, so I would expect we may see something more, because I was down there today. There's additional things that have been added. We've got lots of loads. There's no way to calculate how many loads of gravel or fill or topsoil we need. So he's doing his best to get those numbers, but while I was down there, I see 6 trucks come, and that's $3,000 that just rolled into the RV park. So it's very hard when we're building up, because we put the road in. And have repaired that now. There's a big lip, so we've got some safety issues. So this is number 2. I'm anticipating there's probably going to be a 3rd one, just so you're aware, because it's not a finite number right now.
Okay, Councillor.
Is there planning on diking in a big way in that area, or?
Not that I'm aware of.
So we just hope that it doesn't happen again, or?
We are in the process of reviewing our dike assessment plan, and that probably will be identified on our dike assessment plan. But at this point, we don't have anything in plan.
No, that's fine, as long as we're
Yeah,
gonna have a look at it anyway.
yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sorry.
Yep.
Just to confirm, this is work to date, and that a
This is-
third is coming.
This is work to date.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Counselor Gould is making the recommended motion. Seconder? Counselor Elliott. Any last questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.5, Princeton fishing video. Gary? Maybe,
So this is part of,
can you flick the lights off there behind you, Randy?
would you like to do the video first, or would you like to do the?
Do it all, man.
You're on.
Give the background, so.
Okay, so just for a little background on this, as part of expanding our tourism strategy, we've partnered with BC Fishing. So how that works is this is actually partnered with Destination BC, which is great because that's been an ongoing effort to try and get some recognition with Destination BC. So we are now a member of this BC Fishing and Tourism Group, and they leverage our dollars with Destination BC. So our 5,000 investment turns into 10,000 in marketing. It seems very fitting for us to be part of this. So we're one of 15 British Columbia communities that is involved with this. As you can see in the notes, the economic driver that fishing is, like sport fishing is the largest of all the fisheries now. That's where the money is. 400,000 annual fishing licenses, 936 million in annual sales, and contribute 144 of the GDP of the province. So it's really significant. It'll help our tourism here. It's going to help some of our businesses. It helps when we bring people into town. It gets people more aware of some of the things there are to do here and take advantage of some of our lakes and the proximity. And I know the town used to do fish a lake a day for 50 days, or well, as long as you stay, which Merritt has now taken for information's sake. They use that slogan. I saw one of their promos and they had that on there.
I'm going to have a chat with Linda.
So
It fits both, though.
yeah, so I was excited. We finally were able to get this together because COVID kind of threw a wrinkle into it. It's one of the projects that we were in the works, and they came and filmed last year. So this is about a 4.5-minute piece they did on Princeton fishing, and if you want to play it, and after, if there's any questions, it'd be.
I liked it when your head was half lit up.
I can't see a thing.
I've always said fishing for me has had there's this inner gauge, and it gets low if I'm not out there fishing. I need to recharge it, and being here has just totally recharged it.
Traveling up to Princeton is just always a beautiful drive because you get the opportunity to see, basically the two Skagits where they meet, the confluence of the two. And you get to see the Tulameen and the Smokameen come together. It's just such a privilege. If I had the opportunity, I'd be moving up here in a heartbeat.
There's a lot to pick from. It's sort of like which way do you even go? The rivers meet in town and the highways branch off, and you could do as much exploring as you want to, as much time as you have. There's so much around here.
Heading out and hitting up some new water and just, being able to explore using the rafts has been great. And, it's fall time, so the trout are busy fattening up and you don't have to go too far out on water to be able to find them.
We hiked down into the lake yesterday and started out with leeches casting into the shoals, retrieving, and that was the ticket most of the day.
beach is we were throwing them in the shoals, so 2-3 feet. Just sink line was perfect, just subsurface right underneath there, and just quick cast and strip, fast retrieve, and they'll come chase it right out of the marl. It's beautiful to see. Some of them just, you thought you were done and you're pulling in and wanting to recast, and they chase that fly right up to the bitter end, and sometimes they even come back for it before you even had the chance to recast, and that was just rad.
Pretty sure a lot of my luck this weekend was because I brought some bananas in the boat, and everybody else wasn't too keen on it, but I'm still doing it. I'm bringing those bananas.
I'm used to fishing quite a bit, and I've seen some pretty big fish, but I have to say it was just such a privilege to meet my personal best this year yesterday. That was a day.
It was a great day. Got my personal best.
Well done.
That's awesome.
Very nice.
Every time I watch it, I'm like, yeah. See you guys later.
Councilor McLean, can you get the light?
Oh, yay, I can see again.
Top his head getting lit up.
Made Randy sad now. I can see.
So that video, they're going to air that as well through their networks, and then we're gonna get different cuts of that. I'll get some 30-second snippets out of that we can use for different promotional, and I'm not sure where I'm gonna go with that yet. I've got a few ideas. It was kind of neat that they both caught their personal best. I thought that was pretty interesting. And the banana reference, I don't know if you guys know the banana reference, but I've done a lot of deep sea fishing. If you had banana on a boat, they'd throw you off the boat in the ocean. So it was
Yeah.
funny when she says that she swears by her bananas. I got a chuckle out of that.
I went bass fishing with my brother, and he just about threw me out of the boat. We still caught bass. It's okay. Any questions, Gary? Councilor?
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's great. Some of our local fisher people probably won't think it's great if we start promoting too heavily, but I also think there's enough room for
I would
A lot of people
suggest
would
if they really should Google a video of tarpon fishing in the Keys if we're concerned about people being too close on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you could walk from boat to boat when the tarpon fishing's going on down in the Keys
Yeah.
without getting your feet wet. So I think there's plenty of lakes and things to go around here.
Yeah.
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 What lake was that? For sure.
Not telling anybody. Okay, if there's no more comments, and recommendation to receive for viewing.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott, seconder.
I'll second.
Councillor Gould, seconding. All in favor? Carried, thank you. That takes us to council reports, and I'm going to start with Councillor McLean, because I'm dying to hear how Kofi was. My favorite conference of the year, and you got to go.
Well, I had a very nice room
I bet.
with a view of the water and everything, so that was great. I found it pretty interesting. They talked, first of all, that the Premier announced sharing of forest revenue, forest resource with indigenous peoples of our province. They moved on to the instability of the Russian-Ukraine situation, as well as China, the sanctions, and as a result of that, an increasing European and global markets as a result of sanctions that are, you know, cutting back on Russian exports and that sort of thing. I found it was interesting when they talked about wood burning, it's regarded as carbon neutral. When you compare it to other ways of heating and that sort of thing, wood burning is considered carbon neutral. I think how they come about that is the carbon is present in the trees, and it just returns, and kind of just it's a circular sort of a process. Sales are, as you can imagine, as good as they've been for a long time in terms of the price for lumber and that sort of thing. One of the interesting things I found was that Canada has the highest percentage of certified timber in the world. Certified, I tried to get I listened to an explanation of it, but it's just that you are, when you're growing your wood and when you're when you're planting and looking after it and all that sort of thing, there's rules and regulations that need to be followed in order that you're not destroying the environment or that sort of thing. And so Canada is the highest percentage. BC is the highest in Canada of certified timber. And one of the comments was, in today's world, don't try to sell uncertified timber. It's a lot harder and the price goes down. I guess the most important part that I got out of it was that rural BC and rural Canada needs to educate urban areas about the wood industry. It's a renewable resource. It isn't as if once you cut it down, it's never going to grow back. When you take oil out of the ground or gas or whatever, there supposedly is a finite point of it. It isn't the way with the forest industry. It's, as long as it's looked after and everything else, it's just going to be there forever. And that seems to, the rural areas where our men and women work in the industry, it's understood. But there's a huge population in the urban areas that vote on things that go on in our province, for example. And I guess it's incumbent on us to educate in terms of trying to get through to them that it isn't a negative thing, it's a positive thing. And it is a renewable resource. And I think out of all the weekend, or the 2 days that I was there, that thing came through to me more than anything else, was that we have a responsibility. We make a lot of money in our province out of the forest industry, and we stand to make a lot of money in the future. It's not like other things that are going to run out. All we need to do is look after it, and we need to educate people in terms of understanding that it is a renewable resource. Anyway, I enjoyed it. There were a lot of people there from all different walks of life in the forest industry, and a lot of very interesting speakers. And you can't agree with them all, but they were intelligent people that had their point of view. That was everything.
Great, thank you, and thank you for going, because I think it's important that we always show up at that conference, if not no other conference, because as you said, like we are the forest industry. So I mean, showing up and showing that we're there to support and to learn is important for the people who work here and live here and everything else. And
One thing I wanted to get out of Mr. Larson from Weyerhaeuser was, I'm not sure the finite number of people that we have working in our, and then there's also the, say, 450 or whatever people at the mill, and then the loggers and all that. And then they say that every manufacturing job generates so many other jobs. It's just, it's, you know, in our small community, how big is that?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting you say that, because that's one of the things I'll talk about it in a bit here with Silga. Is we talked a lot about the connectivity between different parts of our region and how we are all connected, whether it's the food industry or you know, natural resources. Because they did do a quick Kofi presentation at Silga, and it was brought up. But we, you know, I go out all the time, and you know, some of our neighbors aren't as resource driven as we are, and they don't see themselves as being resource communities. But I like to always point out that the larger urban areas are where we go to get those services. There's no cat dealer or there's no John Deere dealer in Princeton. So we go and we purchase those machines and everything else from those centers, and then that means there's jobs there for repair techs and everybody else, and that makes them a logging town or a mining town or a resource town or a ranching town even. And they don't put two and two together until you put it down and you say, you know, that whole industrial park over there, that's all the service people over here. So thank you again. I'll go with Councillor Elliott next, since you're right beside him.
Oh, okay. Well, lots to say about SILGA, Southern Interior Local Government Association. Learned how to lawn bowl. And I might add that once I was able to wrap my mind around the fact that it's kind of a mixture between bocce and curling on a big giant golf green, I was deadly. I did a great job. Aside from that, though, there was a lot of conversation about Hockeyville. Everybody knows that Hockeyville is coming up, and I think every member of municipality at Silga is going to be doing this on their computer, voting for us when the voting opens, so that'll be great. I also wanted to mention that at one point I was sitting with someone in the lobby of the hotel, and I leaned over and said, "Where are you from?" And the person said, "Merritt," and I went, "Oh, yeah, okay." And they said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Princeton," and they went, "Oh, yeah, okay." And we just kind of sat there in silence and nodded to each other, because there was really not much we could say. And I guess the highlight for me was during the banquet, it was announced that I won the $1,500 donation from Fortis BC that I get to give to a local group. And I'm not going to announce who I've chosen in case Fortis wants to make a big announcement out of that. But aside from that, there were a lot of great guest speakers. I get a lot of, and I don't know about the mayor, but I get a lot out of the time you spend talking to other people. You know, the discussions over lunch or whatever, because you find out in a real hurry that everybody has the same problems. It's infrastructure and housing. Everybody's got that as their top two priorities. So I think it's kind of great to be able to realize that we're not alone in those kind of things. And it was a great conference. I enjoyed it.
Great, thank you. Councillor Willis.
Well, I don't have any banquets to talk about. I did. We had snacks at the AGM for the Chamber of Commerce, and they were very good. Yeah, so we had the AGM, and we swore in the new board members, and yeah, it was good. They got some good ideas and some new people around there, and new office around the corner here. So, yeah, it was good. That's all I got to report.
Great. And their market's starting up this weekend, is it not?
Yes, I believe so. Yep. Yep.
Cool. Thank you. Councillor Gould.
Mine was even less interesting.
I know you had to work, and that's why you couldn't come to
Yeah.
Silga.
Yes, I know, I would have been there. I did end up in Salmon Arm, though,
Oh.
on Friday for the weekend, because my son was in a tryout. But all I've been able to do is just attend the special meeting in council on the 25th that we were all there for, and that's it.
Okay, well,
Other than this.
Hockeyville. So, thank you. So I went to Silga. I think that's the big one for the week. Lots of interviews also over Hockeyville. Done a bunch of radio, TV, and whatnot. So get out and vote for Hockeyville, hockeyville.ca, vote for Princeton. But Silga was really good this year. It was a little different for me because I'm on the board, so I had official duties as well as my regular municipal duties. So I had to be in two places at the same time, and that was tiring. But that being said, I did have a conversation with the Minister of Municipal Affairs. We talked about some issues that we're having. As a result, I did get a phone call from the ALC chair today, and we had a conversation about some of the issues around the ALR lands around the community that we are looking at. So that had a good outcome. I had a really good conversation with BC Transit on how we can improve our transit system in town in the meantime before we come up with a new contract and what the future is going to look like for us there. And I had a conversation with the CAO about it, and we're going to have a conversation about how to move forward with that. I talked to BC Housing while they were there. The regional manager was there, so we had a good conversation about that, and he introduced me to the new regional manager. So I got to meet the guy who's going to replace John and put a face to the name, and it was good because we've only met each other over Zoom and Teams and all the rest of it. So being able to actually shake each other's hand and see each other was productive. We had a good conversation, probably about 45 minutes long. So I'm hoping that this will progress some of our housing issues that we're having right now with the flood and future issues. So there's going to be some conversations here very shortly about the interim housing and what BC Housing's role may be in that. So BC Housing is an expert in housing management. So part of the money we received from the provincial government is for infrastructure and rental, and BC Housing has also identified, I believe the same as we have, that the majority of people that are going to need the housing, interim housing, are residents of Silvercrest and clients of BC Housing. So they're interested in possibly managing that camp, or whatever we want to call it, through their contractors. So we had a good chat about that. I had a really interesting conversation with the milk producers of British Columbia, and we brought up the food situation and the distribution issue around the flooding and last summer when we had no dairy on our shelves and everything else. And very interesting takeaway from that. So the milk in British Columbia is processed in two places. One down, I think it's Burnaby, and the other place is in Alberta. So when we lose our transportation links to the Lower Mainland, all the milk from here has to go to Alberta or it gets dumped. And when it gets dumped, it means we don't have milk on the shelves. So the milk goes down to the coast, gets processed, and then it comes back. And it's in about a 48-hour cycle, I believe is what they said. So it's rather rapid, but when trucks can't move, then milk goes bad and it gets dumped. So they are looking for support from local government to change some of the distribution models and how to get processing in the interior so that we don't have to ship it somewhere else, which is interesting to hear because part of our major issues are all the distribution comes out of Lower Mainland or from Alberta. So when we have transportation links, which there's only really 2 from Alberta and 3 to the Lower Mainland, when they get cut, we're stranded. So that was a good conversation as well. I lobbied on the behalf of Gary for another grant with Etsy, and it was a good conference. I did a lot of work. Lobbied pretty hard when I got the chance to get the ear of whoever I needed to get the ear of and whatnot. So I think we're going to see some positives come out of the conference, and I think we're going to be getting some phone calls here pretty soon for some of the bigger problems we're having, especially with the ALC and whatnot. So anybody have any questions? Councillor Gould.
So is there a plan progressing in regards to our interim housing?
Well, sort of. We don't have the money yet, but we've signed an agreement, and we got it, just after our meeting on Monday. So Lyle signed it, and once we receive the money, Jared and True, I believe, are working on the final engineering on the infrastructure for the interim housing, and we We might have units secured. We have some that have been held for us from a company called Black Diamond that has been holding them for us since November. We have to make sure that those fit the requirements. They're more self-sustained units instead of like the ATCO ones where you need a camp, cook, and all the rest of it. So we believe they'll fit, and then we just have to have that conversation with BC Housing and get something hammered out. I believe Maureen and her team have a conversation with them at some point this week. I know Red Cross is coming to town tomorrow for some conversations and whatnot. So everything's slowly coming into place. It'll still be, even if we do have all the money and all that, it's still going to be probably a couple months before we can get all the infrastructure in place and get the units moved into the community. So it's not going to happen overnight, but we are getting closer. So
And our residents that are needing housing are still being housed by Red Cross?
yes,
Okay, good.
yeah. Councilor McLean.
Comment.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did you practice the presentation you gave for Hockeyville from up on the airport there?
Oh, once.
I'm serious.
We did that.
I thought you were a professional announcer or something. I thought, oh my God, he must have practiced that every time.
No, we
'Cause
winged it.
It came off like just perfect. I'm thinking, holy smokes.
No, we did that in 15, I think it was 15 minutes. I think we did 2 different takes. He asked me a couple different questions, and that's the result of it. So.
Perfect.
So yeah, if there's no more questions, I want to just say one more time, Hockeyville, hockeyville.ca, Craft Hockeyville. We are in the Final Four, and it's if we can win this, it's $250,000 to go towards a new roof at the Princeton Arena. So get out and vote. Voting opens May 6th, runs through to May 7th, and the announcement will be May 7th during the hockey game. So thank you. Moving on to number 10, bylaws and resolutions. We have a tax rate bylaw. James.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, again, the 2022 tax rates bylaw is on the agenda. Staff asks council for adoption. This bylaw is another one of those that has to be passed on to the province by before May 15th. So, because May 14th is a holiday, it has to be into them by next Friday. It's already passed for 3 readings. It's basically to fulfill the municipal revenue portion of the 2022 to 2026 financial plan for this year, and we ask for adoption.
Questions? Councilor McLean, motion? Councilor McLean's making the motion. Second. Willis is seconding. Any last questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. With that, we go to 12.1, motion to close. Recommendation that the meeting be closed to the public for the purpose of considering the following. 90.1E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Gould, seconder. Councillor Elliott, any comment? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And with that, I will say good night, everybody.